My name is Ian Washburn. I'm 38 years old. I've been a Washington football fan since 1982. I was born and raised in the DC area. I am a very fortunate third generation season ticket holder of the Washington football team.
My name's Josh Silver. I'm over 50 years old and the AARP solicits me every once in a while. I'm from the Washington DC area, grew up in Bethesda, Maryland. Have been a lifelong fan of the Washington football team.
I was born at exactly the right time to catch the glory years of the Gibbs 80s, of Riggins, Theismann, Monk, so many great players.
The big rivalry was with the Dallas Cowboys, and it seemed like in the 1970s the Cowboys usually had the upper hand, but then they hired a young coach, Joe Gibbs, in the early 1980s, and then the Washington team gained the upper hand. During that decade, Washington didn't really have any other sports. You didn't have a baseball team. And then the basketball team in the 80s and 90s was really pretty bad. So for most fans, it was this team. So a lot of fans developed really strong emotional ties to it.
I've stuck with the team all these years into FedEx Field, through the Daniel Snyder era, all of the nonsense we put up with over the past 15 years. Somehow I remain a fan of Washington football. Still very proud of it. I still enjoy it. I still like it a lot. It's an important legacy to me and my family. However, in 2013, I made the official decision that I would no longer use the name, the imagery. I would eliminate it from my fandom. I would keep the burgundy and gold. I would still celebrate Washington football as I always had, but I was no longer going to play Indian.
The old RFK Stadium, named after Robert Kennedy, was a place, it rocked. You know, in a close game, the bleachers were literally jumping up and down, and you had a real community feeling with this team. The lawyer would sit next to the janitor, whites would sit next to blacks, and you know, little did we know that something that seemed to unify all classes and all races by its very name was a racist name. A lot of us just didn't know that, and it just seemed at the time such a great community unifier. You know, Cowboys versus Indians, hey, we're the underdog. It's a good thing, you know, we're honoring Native Americans. And, you know, that's what the owner of the team, Dan Snyder, says today. It's a name that's supposed to honor Native Americans and be a symbol of courage. You know, the older I got and I started reading about Susan Harjo's court case in the Washington Post, you know, you started to learn that, hey, the name really isn't so cool. It really is a racial slur.
And the more I just thought about it deep, the history of this name, the man who created that name and imagery, the history of this nation, my place in this country and history, I just started to realize that this is really, really messed up. This is someone else's culture that we've hijacked to do what we want with as sports fans.
For my reading and from what I told, it's associated with genocide. You know, I'll just say it very plainly. It's associated with scalping. And for a Jewish American, I think every single Jew, well, I should say every single human being, but also especially every single Jew should be very sensitive to this, because in Jewish history, we've been called so many names, and the names connote inferiority. They make you feel ashamed of yourself. And the names, you know, they're repeated enough time to millions of people. You wear a star, you wear a yellow star, which is supposed to be a symbol of shame. All these things make a people inferior, and for Jews, it resulted in the Holocaust. The name, the propaganda, the ideology. So for me, I'm very sensitive to this issue.
Definitely the mascot movement has definitely given me a lot of information that I would not have otherwise had. I was not taught that in school. Our culture generally doesn't teach that. And again, the sports teams allow us to play Indian, which makes natives invisible relics of the past. You know, playing Indian with a sports team doesn't allow indigenous people to be alive in the year 2016.
Ian Washburn and I have created a grassroots organization, and we call it Rebrand Washington Football. And the subtitle is Fans for a New Name. So saying that, hey, we're fans. We love the sport, but we want to change the name. Maybe there is an important niche for fans to be active and to work together with Native Americans and other groups concerned about the name.
And the more and more I learn about this name and what it's come to mean and what it means to indigenous people, the more disgusted I become by it. The more I began to just abhor this name. I want it gone so bad. And I look forward to the day that it is gone.
I would love it if Mr. Snyder had an ephany and Next week, or in a couple of months from now, he said, I'm going to change the name. But I'm also realistic. This may go on for a number of years. Mike Wise, who's a famous sports columnist, he's optimistic. He says within 3 or 5 years. I hope he's right. But if it takes more than that, we're girded for the long term.